Hello, everybody. Well, today I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I have, and I've seen other people have it also with regard to our kids. Our students are having difficulty with basic things in school, such as reading comprehension, writing, and mathematics. So I want to talk about those things right quick uh, and show you what's really going on here. So the students are having problems with the reading, right? They don't read on grade level. And some students aren't able to read at all. I know that sounds shocking, but it's true. So reading, writing, they have a problem writing. They have also a problem doing mathematics. What do these things have in common? What do these things have in common? Well, I'll let you know. And it's something you may not realize, but what they all have in common is cognition, okay? Cognition. So the cognition is the issue. What do I mean by that? Well, the person who is not able to really read, write, and do mathematics on grade level has a problem with cognition, which means they have a problem with thinking. Okay? They have a thinking problem. And that doesn't mean that they're unable to think. No, that just means they lack the capacity with regard to how to think. They haven't been taught how to think. Schools are not teaching kids how to problem solve. They don't do that. When I was a kid, we had in elementary school all kinds of concepts we had to master, all kinds, from kindergarten all the way up to sixth grade. That's the way it used to be, right? And so from kindergarten to sixth grade, we had to do things that involved each one of these areas, okay? Each one of these areas. And you were tested on these areas. That means that you were given a reading test. And spelling, we were given a writing test. That means we had to do handwriting. There was a whole module on that. Third grade, mandatory. On up. Matter of fact, all the way through high school, we were graded on our writing, right? If we had to read a book, we were graded on the book that we read. Did we understand the concepts that were taught in that book? You got a grade for that, and you got a grade for organizational skills. How did you organize your thoughts? We got a grade for all of those things, content, everything. Schools don't do that anymore. I don't know if you realize that or not. So let's look at that. So under reading, we had to learn how to organize our thoughts. Okay? We couldn't just put anything down on paper, right? We had to do something called brainstorming, right? So we had to do brainstorming. They don't do that anymore. The kids have no idea what that means. Okay? We had to do the brainstorming. We had to do spelling, right? We had to do other concepts like what's the main idea, right? What was the story about? Okay? We had to understand how to read and recall, right? They don't do that anymore. So we had to recall the events in the story. We used to have to write book reports. Why did we write book reports? Every week we did this in high school and in middle school, or junior high when I was in school. We did that because the teacher wanted to test our ability to think, right? To think, right? To recall information. How do we organize information, right? These processes, you can't just assume that the child knows. They don't know unless they're taught. And we were given a foundation when I was in school from 1 through 6. And on top of that, you build on it. These days, the kids don't have anything whatsoever to build on, nothing. And so when you start introducing new concepts, they're lost. They don't understand it. I taught math last year, 8th grade math. Kids were lost. They didn't understand the concepts, right? And so writing, there's something with writing, right? And cognition, right? This involves language. It involves language, right? Cognition is involved here. Right? Am I able to think? Right? Am I able to extrapolate? Am I able to engage my imagination? All of that's in writing. Okay? Kids don't do that anymore. They don't even know what you're talking about when it comes to this. You tell a child today, get out a pencil and paper and write a story, they won't be able to do it. They might, I emphasize, might be able to squeak out somewhat of one paragraph. I'm talking about maybe 5 sentences. It's probably run-on sentences. And they don't even know what that means. So you have a problem with writing, right now. You have a problem with mathematics. You wouldn't think would be an issue. What does mathematics have to do with writing or reading? Well, I'll tell you what. You're dealing with organization also. You're also dealing with other concepts, right? So they can't conceptualize anything. They don't understand how to do that. They haven't been taught. They have no idea what that is. They have no foundation to build on that, right? They can't apply information. okay? They can't do any of that kind of stuff because they don't understand it. They've never been taught this, right? Um, when it comes down to all of these things, they build on each other. Super important that you guys understand that as parents. And so when you start looking at things, they don't understand, the students don't understand things that you would think they would be able to grasp. So the thinking problem, that's an issue, right? They don't understand abstract concept. They don't get that. They don't understand that at all. So you have that problem, okay? It's all a cognitive issue. Thinking a problem, abstract concepts. They don't know how to solve an issue, right? How do I solve problem A, right? And that goes down to decision making also. If you give a child a task and you say, solve this task, finish this task, and you introduce some problems there, uh, thinking problems, they will become anxious and angry because they don't understand the concepts, right? They can't think through any kind of problem. That's why they decompensate, and that's why they become angry, and that's why they become violent. This is why they become suicidal. I want you to hear what I'm talking about here, okay? And so you have issues there, right? The other thing is when you start talking about concepts, they don't even understand this, relationships, okay? They don't get that. I was going to write relational down here. They don't understand relationships. How does one thing relate to another? They're not able to do it at all. They don't even know what you're talking about. Even if you explain it to them, they won't know. Okay? So that's a real big problem. There's another thing that you got to know, and there's a couple of words I'm going to put up here, some psychologists in a second, so you understand where this information comes from, and you can look it up yourself. I don't know why educators won't do this, but basically you have Piaget and this other one I have here. So look up this for your psychological constructs, and they will let you know. Let's see, Piaget. I should have put my glasses on. There you go. So Piaget talks about this. So you can look that up. Well-known individual here. Piaget wrote about this, and he proposed that mathematical reasoning develops alongside of abstract cognitive structures, right? And so this other one right here also. Mr. Lev emphasized that language recognizes cognition, right? And mathematics as a specialized symbolized language people can't operate when it comes to thinking and perceiving things, understanding how life works. They don't understand relationships between things, between concepts, right? They can't understand that because these things really are symbolic. They're symbolic, okay? And being symbolic, they become relational. They become relational. That means they have certain relationships, properties, right? And so understanding how things are related to each other, one concept to another, then you're able to build on that knowledge and then problem solve. You can't do any of that unless you learn these foundations right here, reading, writing, and mathematics. It's impossible. All that to say that this is why your students or your children are not able to process information effectively. They're not able to organize their thought in the way that college, any advanced learning, higher education, they're lost. They're absolutely lost because when they go to college, they have already mastered these concepts. Okay? What has going on now? You're sending your child to college and they're not able to thrive because they have not mastered any of these concepts that I'm showing you here. They haven't mastered them. The school doesn't teach them anymore. They found it. Okay, they teach math. Sure, they teach English language arts, ELA. Yeah, that's cute, but the fact is the students don't learn. Like, give an example with reading. The basics of reading, just an example of reading is phonics. Okay? That's how they learn how to spell. Okay? That's how they learn their vowels, A-E-I-O-U, right? That's how they learn consonants, okay? That's how they learn simple things like another one they don't teach anymore. They do not teach grammar. You don't believe me? Ask your kid. Ask them, Billy, Sally, what's grammar? They're not going to be able to tell you. Okay? Grammar. They don't understand sentence context. They have no syntax, rather. They don't understand any of that stuff. You know, what's onomatopoeia? They don't know. Okay? They have no earthly idea. You might as well be speaking Swahili. Okay? Because they don't get it. They've never been taught this stuff. So this is a big problem. Okay? And this is just, I'm just giving you the very, very, very basics. You can test your kid and find out yourself. Test them tonight. They won't know any of this stuff. They don't know how to do any kind of punctuation when it comes to the reading and stuff. They don't know it at all. They don't understand syntax. I dare say they've never even heard of those terms. Okay, They don't get it because they're not mandated to get that. Okay? They don't even teach that. These schools all across the United States, about when did George Bush get into office? I'm talking about W. Bush. That was like in the early 2000s. Okay? When 20 something years ago, 25 years ago, 26 years ago, when he got into office, he did away with these concepts in education and he started pushing taking the test, right? Teach to the test. This is the stuff they do. They teach to the test. The problem with teaching to the test is the kids don't learn. They can't learn. Okay? And this is the major issue in the United States. They teach, if you can call it teaching, to the test. What test? Standardized test. You don't believe me? Ask your kids. They'll tell you. Teach to the test. That's all they do. Okay? They get so much these days, the kids really don't learn anything. Okay? Things. So when you're teaching to a standardized test, you're not teaching any of these concepts, these basic concepts. And what you have is a major cognition problem that's introduced by our wonderful school systems. And I'm talking about every school. Every public school that you engage with have these issues, every one of them. And they don't tell you that when your child graduates high school. Oh, Johnny, Sally Sue graduated, wonderful. They got a 4.0 GPA. But let me tell you something, that 4.0 GPA is worthless because the kids are always doing work on the computers, which is another problem, and they don't learn anything, right? So you can make a 4.0 GPS. It's like no big deal. But when they go to higher learning, they start struggling. They can't make it through their first semester in college and they end up dropping out unless they're real gifted and able to catch up. So this is the problem. When you don't have the ability to really organize your thoughts, and you don't have the ability to read, and you don't have the ability to do mathematics, you have a cognition issue. Okay? And so that can be corrected. It takes time. You got to find some good tutors who are able to go back and reteach your children. So that's what I would suggest you all do, because every one of your kids is struggling. I don't care what their GPA is. Even if they're gifted and talented, it doesn't mean anything, because your gifted and talented kids can't do any of this stuff, guaranteed. Well, sorry to tell you all that, but somebody had to tell you. And y'all have a good one. I mean, this is tough stuff. Very hard to hear, but it's absolutely necessary, right? Go find out. Hold your school districts accountable. Every school district has to have an open session for the parents and for the public, because they're accountable to the public. Every public school district has to have an open session with the board of directors, and they have to listen to you, the public. Okay, they have to, right? And so go sign up, find out in your community when your board of directors at your local school board, even if you don't have kids that go to that school system, if they go to private school, you're in much better shape because they're learning the basics. But Just go anyway, because you're all paying taxes. You're all paying taxes, and your tax money feeds and funds every public school district in America. Go and talk to them about what I'm telling you. They're all teaching to the test. Every last one of these schools are mandated to do that. And